Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. Call right now. 800-597-9323.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair. The world's lightest wheelchair is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts. With state-of-the-art equipment and a team of skilled designers, we can engrave intricate designs on virtually any material. Whether it's a special message, a company logo, or a custom design, Romika Laser Engraving will help you make your mark. And the best part, our prices are affordable and our turnaround time is quick.
I couldn't be happier with the work Romika Laser Engraving did for me. The engraving on my product was precise and exactly what I wanted.
So don't wait any longer to add a personal touch to your products. Call Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
What's up, North Texas? How are y'all doing? It's been an interesting week already, and it's only Tuesday. And right now I want to talk specifically to Cowboys fans. How are y'all doing? Are we still mad? Are we still mad about Sunday? Do we still have feelings and thoughts and lots of emotions about Sunday? If so, please share those with me in the chat. I would love to hear what your thoughts and feelings and emotions and takes are. But this is another episode of Bitches Love Sports here on NTX Radio. I'm your host, Jazz Monet. And yeah, Dallas Cowboys once again are going to be the topic of the day. So if you are a North Texas resident and a Cowboys fan like me, this is a show you definitely want to tune into. So if you're on the YouTube side, side or the Facebook side, wherever you happen to be listening from, definitely chime in and feel free to join the conversation in the chat. I do respond to the messages that I see in the chat. So don't hesitate to show some love, express your feelings, or whatever it may be. But yeah, I feel like there's so much to talk about from Sunday. And I'll be honest, and for those of you who are not in the loop and, maybe listening for some WNBA news, which we're going to get into later, the Dallas Cowboys lost a game they were expected to win. They lost to the Carolina Panthers on Sunday afternoon by a score of 30-27. And that sounds like a close game, right? You would hear that score and think that this was just a back and forth tough game. And it kind of was, if you compare the offenses. But the thing that's got Cowboys fans so upset and talking about who should be traded and talking about who should be fired is the fact that because of how the Cowboys offense performed, which once again, Dak Prescott putting up record numbers in the positive direction, the defense really dropped the ball. Like in the description, it says the defense can't, or it says the Cowboys can't tackle their defensive issues. Well, the Cowboys can't really tackle anything, it seems like. Definitely not Rico Dowdle. And so it's got a lot of people saying, hey, that game shouldn't have even gone like that. Like, really, all the Dallas Cowboys needed was a stop, especially at the end. Especially at the end. At the end of the game, I mean, there are some people who feel a way about the fact that the Dallas Cowboys offense, they didn't do what they should have done in the fourth quarter in terms of scoring, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. But I feel like more people are looking at the fact that the Dallas Cowboys defense allowed the Carolina Panthers offense, led by Bryce Young, a quarterback who got benched last season, was temporarily benched. They allowed Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers offense to hold the ball for over 6 minutes, to convert third down after third down, and to just march their way down the field. Not only allowed it, actually helped them. There was a really stupid PI call that gave them yards and a first down and helped extend the drive. You know what I'm saying? And so while we can be disappointed in the offense, the mistakes the offense made were typical, and the offense played really well outside of those few mistakes. There's nothing that you would really look at, in terms of what that offense did and just be like, oh my God, the offense was bad. It's just like, hey, that was a really time to have a bad drive. That was a really bad time for a bad drive. It was a bad time for a bad series, right? But for the most part, they did what they were supposed to do, scoring almost 30 points. That's what they're supposed to do. It's unrealistic to expect the Dallas Cowboys offense to have to score 30 plus points every game in order for the Cowboys to have a winning record. But to allow the Carolina Panthers offense to hold the ball for over 6 minutes, that's the kind of thing that I feel like a lot of Cowboys fans are looking at and are saying, okay, this is unacceptable. Like, what the offense did, we can forgive. But they probably expected to get the ball back. They probably expected to get it back. And so that's why, even as we sit here today, and it's Tuesday, we've had over 48 hours to get past it. There's still some very interesting conversations that are happening. And a lot of it is fueled not only by what happened during the game, but also some of the quotes that have come out after the game. So we're going to get into read and react a little bit early, because Trayvon Diggs said something that is relevant to this situation. And let me just find the link. I swear I had it just a second ago. Okay, so when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, Trayvon Diggs is definitely one of the people that are looking to step their game up and to be one of the people leading the way in terms of turning this defense around. And so this is a quote that I found on Sports Illustrated, but I think it was originally said to Sports Day DFW. But apparently Trayvon Diggs said, yeah, it's very I can talk, I promise. Yeah, it's very frustrating. It's all these points. The receivers are running wide open down the field. Too many busted coverages. It's a lot. I feel like we're all over the place and we really don't have no identity, Diggs told Sports Day DFW. So you hear him say something like that, and it's interesting because when we're talking about wide receivers running, just wide open down the field and busted coverages, it's like, yo, that's partially your job, So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if Trayvon Diggs is saying this to the public, we're not just talking about finger pointing. because that's what Schottenheimer keeps saying. He doesn't want to participate in finger pointing, but we're going to get to him in a second too. But he is calling out something bigger than just him having a problem. He's calling out something bigger than his unit having a problem. I feel like a player to call out something like this that he's involved in, you have to also be addressing the coaches. You have to also be addressing, and I don't just mean Eberflus, because people are going in on Matt Eberflus saying he should be fired, yada, yada, yada. But, there are other coaches on the staff that are responsible for making sure that the secondary knows what they're supposed to be doing, and the linebackers and the defensive line. Like, there are coaches under Matt Eberflus, and I don't know where the disconnect is happening. But as much as Brian Schottenheimer says that he doesn't want to point fingers, if you actually listen to what he says during his press conference, he's pointing something at somebody. Because, you can say like, okay, I don't want to play the blame game, yada, yada, yada. And maybe that has to do with being considerate of players' feelings, right? Because I know I've seen a lot of people on social media and they really don't like what Schottenheimer's been saying. They feel like he's outright lying. They feel like Jerry Jones is on some bullshit. Like just some of the quotes that are coming out, like Jerry Jones saying that the Dallas Cowboys have some of the best pass rushers that they've ever had. And Brian Schottenheimer saying that there's nothing wrong with the personnel, that they can execute Eberflus's scheme. And people are like, okay, well, what's the issue then? If all these things are supposed to be true, then what's the issue? And so it's like, you listen to what Trayvon Diggs is saying, and it's like, okay, there's a disconnect somewhere. And I think when it comes to Shotty, he definitely doesn't want to do anything that would rub players the wrong way. He's all about culture, having people be in the right mindset, ready to compete, right? And so maybe it's gotten to a point where they don't really care what fans think. They care if fans know that they're telling the truth or agree with what they're saying. They're like, we're going to say the right thing out of consideration for the players. Okay, but it's like, if you're going to talk to the media, at least say some shit that makes sense, So I'm going to play some sound bites from Brian Schottenheimer because I want you, if you haven't heard this, I want y'all to listen to this with me. And I want y'all to give y'all's opinion on some of this stuff. Because some of it, I'm just like, okay, to say you're not pointing fingers, you sure are pointing out a hell of a lot of issues, but then just like glossing over it like, oh, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Like, no, there's a lot of issues. I'm looking at the notes that I took on it, and this is not even complete notes. This was me just like, I'd listened to the press conference, and then I went back and listened to a section of it again and just kind of wrote down some of the issues that he mentioned. And I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 instances of Schottenheimer mentioning something wrong with the defense. So you can't call out the defense 11 times in a 30-minute press conference, which is long for Schottenheimer. You can't call out the defense 11 times and then be like, well, I'm not going to point any fingers. Okay, well, somebody's going to have to answer for this. Anyway, let's go ahead and start with this first section of it's not the first section of the press conference, but it's the first section that I want to listen to. Let me pull that up. I think it's this one. Let me see. Oh, no. Let me try this one more time. I've got 3 different sections pulled up in 3 different windows. This is one. All right. So let's go ahead and listen to some of what Shotty says here. And he doesn't come out and say, I'm about to list several different issues, but I want y'all to listen to it and just listen to how many things he names.
Certainly not going to share those with you guys, but I want to go back to the fact of the other thing we need to do as coaches is emphasize fundamentals and hand placements and fits and how you take on a combination block with your near arm and your near foot and how you shoot the gap to create separation so that your buddy can come off and make a play. Those little finite details are the things that we're not doing from a consistent standpoint, which is why we struggled yesterday.
All right. So he listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things right there and says those finite details are things that we're not doing from a consistency standpoint. Now, I'm going to read them back to you just in case that was too fast for people to take mental note. So he said they need to look at fundamentals, hand placements, their fits, taking on combo blocks, and shooting the gap to create separation. Those are not finite details. Those are like the essentials of what you're supposed to be doing on the D line. And the D line is where he says everything is supposed to happen. He said that multiple times, that everything happens in the trenches. He said multiple times that the guys on the line, like, they set the tone for everything else that happens after the snap. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, why would you say, like, okay, these are finite details? One, these are more than finite details. These are like actually huge issues. And then just kind of like be like, oh, well, I'm not going to go into detail with y'all, but then list 5 things. If that's not the details, then what the hell is? And so that's an example of what I'm talking about when you have Brian Schottenheimer saying, we're not going to point fingers. We're not going to, call people out. But then you list 5 very essential things that you try to pass off as minute details. Like, who the hell are you trying to fool in this situation? Like, do you think fans are just going to hear you say those are minute details and just like gloss over that? Like, no. Like, how the hell did you go all through training camp, all through preseason, and get to going on week 6? And you're talking about, oh, yeah, we need to figure out fits and hand placement and how to shoot the gap. You told us in the summer that this was an attack front defense. That means shooting the gap and taking on combo blocks, which we already know because Mozzie Smith said it out loud. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to split those. So we know, not only do we know that they're supposed to handle the combo blocks, we know how they're supposed to handle them. It's been stated in the press by players. And it's an essential part of what you said was the identity of the defense. And now you're coming back and saying these are minute details and these are things that you need to go over. Okay, so what the fuck happened between training camp and now? Like, that's why I'm like saying it's coaching. And it's like people are calling out players and they should be calling out players. I don't blame the people who are looking at Kenneth Murray and being like, why the fuck is he a Mike linebacker? Which we're going to get to because I have the same question. I don't blame people who are like, yo, when is Perion Winfrey going to be available? I don't blame anybody for asking any of those questions. But at the same time, there are players that we know how to do these things. So why all of a sudden do we have not only wide receivers who are catching balls wide the fuck open? Like, so it's not just his own issue. It's like, if you look at some of the film, and I wish I had screenshotted it for you guys. Sorry. I'm, limited time on each day. But if you look at some of the film, it's like you see Rico Dowdle when he's getting a lot of these yards. It's like the D-line is just being opened up like they're parting like the fucking Red Sea. So anyway, that's my rant on that. There's actually a couple of other things that I want us to take a listen to. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this next soundbite from Brian Schottenheimer. Is it that one? I think it's this one.
Yesterday, both phases running the football and stopping the run. But it doesn't mean you don't have the people to do it. It just means you have to look for solutions. And does that mean there's going to be some potential changes that you see us do differently? Yes. Is it going to be something that just jumps off the film and all we do now is play nothing but man-to-man? No, that's not happening.
Okay, so nobody expects them to play nothing but man-to-man. But, playing a little bit more man, not a bad idea, especially considering how playing zone has gone for you guys. But I almost feel like he's using solutions, quote unquote, as like I don't want to call it like a secret word, because he's like, oh yeah, we have the personnel and, we're going to have to find some solutions and we're going to have to make some changes. And it's just like, okay, so when you say you do have the personnel, but for whatever reason, things are not being executed properly right now, and we're going to make some changes, to me, it sounds like you feel like the changes need to be who is doing what in terms of listen to it a little bit longer.
But there will be some changes, and there will be some things that we look at that as we figure out our personnel even more, that you'll see us maybe move into a direction where you're seeing more of that.
And there's always what ifs during the course of the season and things that have happened. A lot of people say if Micah was here, this defense would be a bit different. Do you think that this defense would be different if
I'm
Micah
gonna pause
was
this
here?
because I'll probably skip his answer to that because it wasn't relevant. But when he says there's gonna be some changes, I'm like, yeah, there need to be. And that's why I'm just kind of like, okay, you don't want to point fingers, but then you come to the media and say like, oh, but there's going to be some changes. Like, we're going to see who ends up being moved, who ends up being changed, like from what position or from what status in terms of where they are on the depth chart. But he does say in some part of this press conference, I don't know if we'll hear it, he says something along the lines of, if you notice someone is doing a different job, it doesn't mean we think it's their fault. I'm like, okay, you can say that all you want, but I'm like, fans are going to come to their own conclusion. Let me go forward just a little bit before I start playing this again.
On them the importance of doing their job and doing it correctly and with the right fundamental and technique, and that's really what we're focused on.
John Machota with The Athletic, specifically with the linebacker play, what do you see from that group that makes you think that you can get better play there and that they will have the answers as the season goes on?
Yeah, well, I think, I would start with this. Number one, you go to Shamar. Shamar's a guy that we see the traits, we see the ability to dissect and make plays and shoot gaps, and very, very physical. K9 playing a different position last week. That was different for him. Being the guy making all the calls and the green dot and all that stuff with Jack being out. That affects things. Maris comes in the game, and we bring him on an edge pressure, and he gets the only sack of the day. And we're going to continue to play some base, but also you'll see us play nickel some, and you'll see us play different versions of nickel.
All right, so I'm going to pause him right there because I'm kind of like, let me just start from. We'll go in reverse based on what he just said. The Maris Luafau question is really starting to get to me, you guys. Because I'm just like, yes, you did bring him in, and he did get the one sack of the day. So why are we not using him that way more often? And then you talk about Shamar James, like, oh, he can shoot the gap and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, do we think Maris Luafau all of a sudden can't do that? I feel like we've seen him do this before. What the hell is going on to where they won't use Maris Luafau more and won't use him in a way that seems to play to his strengths? Like, when it came to him not being Mike prior to this, right, I was kind of like, okay, it looks like for whatever reason, even though this is supposed to be an attack front defense, which means the linebackers should be running downhill way more, for whatever reason, he's got them in open field coverage a lot. That's not really Maris Luafau's strengths. So I'm like, I get it. But looking at who they do have in that position, and especially when you've got the defensive unit complaining about communication, like, how do you justify leaving Kenneth Murray there? Like, why are we not giving Maris Luafau a shot? When it was Sanborn and Murray and Maris Luafau, I was like, all right, Maris Luafau has been missing tackles. But like now I'm like, well, they all are. They all are. The entire linebacker core is having a problem with that. So, like, that's a wash, in my opinion. And so then you're like, okay, well, Shamar James, he can shoot the gap. He can da-da-da. Okay, well, so can Maris. But yet Shamar is getting more snaps than him. And I just don't understand why we know that Maris Luafau has these strengths, why we know that he's a good guy to rush and do all these things that you seem to need to do in the opposite direction of where you have him going, yet y'all aren't doing it. And T-Jack, I see your comment saying maybe he'll blitz more. He should. But why are they not? Like, as a unit, the defense is not blitzing enough. Not nearly enough still. Which reminds me to pull up the next-gen stats on NFL Pro. Thanks for bringing up blitzing. But he should be. But so I'm just like, why are they not? I really don't get it. I don't understand. Like, and that's the thing. None of this is making sense. It would be different if it was like, okay, we can see what's supposed to happen, but the players just aren't executing. You know what I'm saying? Or we can see what's supposed to happen, but for whatever reason, they just need to tweak this and tweak that, and then they'll have a little bit more success. But it's really at the point right now where none of this is making sense. Because I even asked a question on Twitter. I said, is the Cowboys defense still running an attack front defense? And the reason why I asked that question was because I'm like, why are the linebackers going away from the line of scrimmage so often? Because in an attack front defense, one of the things you want your linebackers to be able to do is to clean up behind the defensive tackles. The defensive tackles are supposed to be disruptive. They're supposed to disrupt the offense, and then the linebackers are supposed to come in and add to that. At least some of them. You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like, for whatever reason, that's not happening. And so I'm just like, okay, is it still an attack front defense? Did you decide to do something else? Somebody on social media was like, nah, I think they've gone back to read and react. Well, why the hell would they do that? They're not built for that, and they didn't train for it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, even fans who are watching are confused. And I'm like, maybe it's me. I know there are some content creators who have been doing this for 10 years plus. This is my 5th season in the game. I'm like, maybe there are some things that I don't know. Like, maybe I'm fucking up. You know what I'm saying? But when I talk to other people online, and even they're confused, and we can't even figure out what the defense is supposed to look like, no wonder you got Trayvon Diggs talking about they don't have an identity. They really don't. They don't even look like they have an identity. Anyway, I want to listen to one more section, and then I'm going to read your comments before the break.
But we didn't communicate it up and down the line, so there were times that we were targeted and maybe not all working in the same direction.
This is
But
actually him
the
talking
biggest
about
thing
offense.
was we didn't give the backs a lot of opportunity to press the hole. Some of it, I think, was schematically our design as a staff. We need to look at that. Next time we're going to play another
Honestly,
read
the
and react
Panthers
front here in a
defense is
couple
good
weeks.
against the run, if we're being honest.
But that's a defense. I'm going to give them credit. They held Miami to 19 yards rushing. I mean,
Where he
it's a
talks
very, very
about
good front,
defenses,
and
high
that's
discipline.
not our standard. And so,
When they look, they think instill the confidence of you got to trust trust the scheme, trust what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think our eye discipline has not been to standard. It's not where it needs to be, and we need to look at that, and we need to basically simplify what they're looking at. So if you're a linebacker, you have a triangle that you read. What's the triangle? It's the center, the 2 guards, and the back. Well, if I'm not seeing the triangle well at times, then you make it a little bit smaller, and you'll go the center and the play side guard, or the center and the backside guard, or the center and the back, because sometimes when you're trying to see a lot, you see a lot, and it takes you out of position. And so us simplifying their eye discipline and their eye gaze is part of the solutions that we're trying to create, because our guys are getting distracted and pulled certain ways in certain fits, and that's why we're late to the fits, and that's why you see our defensive tackles getting displaced at times, because if you don't have a linebacker taking a guy off a double team, the double team's going to hang forever, and you're going to get knocked back.
So this bothered me because I'm like, first of all, if all the linebackers have to look at is the center, the 2 guards in the back, that shouldn't be fucking them up like that. Not like what we've been seeing. Like, this was a BS excuse in my opinion. And then to be like, well, this is why the defensive tackles are messing up, because they're expecting a linebacker to take a guy off a double team. But it's like the linebackers are always backing up. So, like, what help would the DTs actually be expecting from the linebackers when damn near every snap they're backing up? So I'm just like, I don't know if there's some disconnect about what's supposed to happen, and this is what Shotty really believes, or if he just came up with something on the fly. But this whole answer just bothered me because none of it made sense based on what we've been told about how the defense is supposed to work as an attack front and what we've been seeing on the field in terms of what the mistakes actually are and how bad they are. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to go forward just a little bit and listen to one more thing. I think we have enough time.
You got to ask the question why. Like, we didn't sit in the meetings today and just be like, yeah, we got to do this better. No, it's why. Well, why is that happening? And so you come up with a list of why it's happening. Okay, great. Okay, to the left of that board, or to the right of that board, I guess, is a list of, okay, these are the solutions so that doesn't happen anymore. And then you prepare those things, and that's your Wednesday install with the guys, and you start there.
I think we're beyond installs. I feel like we're beyond installs. And I'm normally not a proponent of saying somebody should be fired or someone should lose their job, but this just feels like something that goes beyond installs. Like, this feels like things that should have been taken care of at training camp and somehow weren't. And not only were they not taken care of, but they've even gone backwards almost. So, like, listening to all the sound bites, and I think there were a couple that I didn't play, but Brian Schottenheimer, when it came to criticism of the defense, mentioned fundamentals, hand placement, fits, taking on combo blocks, shooting the gap to create separation, the linebacker issue, lack of communication, bad eye discipline, blown coverages, and then ended with, well, we've got to figure out why this is happening. Are you serious? This is more than not being able to stop the run. This is more than, having some issues where the secondary needs a little help. I refuse to believe all these players went from being decent players, some of them good players, to all of a sudden sucking this bad to where you can just list 11 damn things in one press conference. To me, it's got to be coaching. And I feels like that's got to be addressed. And that's not going to be addressed with an install. It's not going to be addressed by moving people around. There's only one way to address that. Anyway, we're going to go to break in a second. I'm going to look at y'all's comments. Thank you for being active in the chat. There's a lot for me to read here, but I definitely want to respond to some of what y'all said. So after the break, we'll respond to some of y'all's comments, and then we'll talk about what's going on in the WNBA and why I believe they might be headed for a lockout. And if they're not, it could potentially be a big mistake on the part of Adam Silver and Kathy Engelbert, because I get that they have the power and they have the control in the situation. But I think one thing that you don't want to do, hence the theme of the show, I think one thing that you don't want to do is just take players for granted and not take their concerns into consideration. Sometimes the players' needs just have to be considered. So we'll talk more about that after the break.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
And we are back. Thanks, y'all, for sticking with me. So let's see. I saw a comment from Clement that I did want to highlight. Clement says, I'm tired of the coach speak right now. Why was there no changes after the first 3 games? We're historically bad right now on defense. We can't stop the run or the pass. It's sickening right now. I'm with you. I'm over the coach speak. Like, I listen to it pretty much because I have to write about it and report on it. My picture may be frozen, so let me know if y'all can still hear me. But yeah, I have to write about it and report on it. And so I am gonna keep listening to it, but like every new press conference I listen to, I feel like I'm more and more jaded. I feel like I'm just getting more and more to the point where I'm just like, oh yeah, he's gonna say what he's gonna say, but I can't really take what Shotty is saying at face value. I feel like I have to read between the lines. You know what I'm saying? And I think they're trying to fix the picture in the background. But I looked at the NFL Pro stats just to see if there was anything that stood out about the defense. Nothing that I really want to point out except this is kind of about the defense. It says the Cowboys are the sixth team in NFL history to score 175 plus points with no more than 2 wins in their first 6 games of a season. And so the last time this happened was in 2012, and it was the New Orleans Saints. It says only one of the previous 5 such teams made the playoffs. The Cowboys are below 500 through 6 games in a season for the first time since 2020. Have they played? Yeah, it has been 6 games. Dang, this season is flying by. But here's a little bit of hopium for you guys. We're not going to OD on hopium, but just like, if you want to microdose hopium a little bit, nobody in the NFC East is actually looking that great right now. Nobody's actually looking that great. And so while the Dallas Cowboys don't look good, I don't think it would be impossible for them to beat the Commanders this coming Sunday. So I think what happens during that game will say a lot. Even if it's a loss, it'll how the defense even looks will say a lot about what to expect moving forward. And it's very possible that we could have a season where the Cowboys stumble through the regular season and then end up making it into the postseason, and maybe they knows. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's kind of what we have to look forward to. Give me one moment, you guys. So we're not really figuring out why the camera is frozen. I'm gonna try going to one of the videos, like sharing one of the videos and coming back and seeing if that makes a difference. Oh, and now the picture's gone. Oh, well, I got some videos to show you guys. So we'll just focus on those videos because I want to talk about the WNBA and I want to talk about the CBA negotiations. But before we get into the CBA negotiations, I did want to talk to you guys about what happened this past weekend. So on Friday night, the Las Vegas Aces, they won the WNBA championship. Congratulations to them. And I don't mean to gloss over that, but I just have more to say about the WNBA as a whole than I do about the Aces. It was definitely not an easy feat for them. So I need the mouse. If y'all didn't see it, here's what happened when Kathy Engelbert... Hold on one second. If y'all didn't see it, here's what happened when Kathy Engelbert got to the stand to do her part in terms of the post-game ceremony for the Las Vegas Aces.
Here's WNBA. For YouTube TV, here's WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert.
Thank you, Holly. Well, we're here today to celebrate a champion. Thank you to all the fans. Phoenix had a great run to get here, and I just want to congratulate the Aces on a performance. 2025 WNBA chip.
For you.
Yeah, that was kind of an ugly situation. And here's a video of how that sounded from someone who was actually in the arena on that day.
Here's WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert.
Thank you, Holly. We're here today to celebrate.
Yeah, it was loud, guys. It was loud.
Thank you to all the fans. Phoenix had a great run to get here, and I just want to congratulate the Aces on a performance. 2025.
They could barely even hear her. That's how bad it was. So for those of you who might not be in the loop, this all happened as a result of Nafisa Collier's statement, where she basically called out the commissioner for essentially devaluing the players. So there's been a little bit of a back and forth that started with Nafisa Collier's statements where she said that, Kathy Engelbert had said some things about the players, basically suggesting that they should be thanking her for what they're getting, not asking for more, which, when you're going into CBA negotiations, is not what you want to hear from leadership, because it kind of gives you the impression that, yo, this person doesn't actually want us to have anything. This person is not actually interested in meeting us in the middle. They think we should be on our knees begging her for, or thanking her for what we do get. And so the situation happened, like I said, during the trophy ceremony. And so the Aces naturally were asked about it after the ceremony. And here's what they ended up saying.
Listened. We obviously watched and listened as Commissioner Kathy Engelbert took a lot of boos as you guys were presented the trophy. We saw this phenomenal performance from this franchise. What does this all say about your guys' value, how your fans see your value, and also how Kathy Engelbert is being perceived as well in this CBA negotiation?
When you have great players, you need to treat them like that. And when you have players like that and at the forefront of change, you have to pay them like that. You have to value them like that, because there's no league without the players.
Becky, Asia, Chelsea, Jewel, thank
Oh, goodness. Okay, so in case you're not familiar with the Las Vegas Aces, it is not out of the ordinary for Chelsea Gray to be the mature, level-headed one, and for Asia to just completely just go off the deep end when it comes to their celebrations. Oh, wait a second. Now I feel like the whole computer is frozen. Y'all might have to bear with me. We're having some technical difficulties. I don't know. If you can hear me, I'm going to keep talking. I think you can, because I'm looking at the stream on my channel, and I think you can still hear me. So what's essentially happening here is a situation where not only are the players trying to negotiate in terms of the CBA, so this isn't like a typical negotiation where it's like, hey, we know that this is going to happen. We just need to iron out the details. This is a situation where the players like literally feel disrespected. This is a situation where the players are feeling like, oh, now there's an echo. Okay. Hopefully, I'm okay. Hopefully, no, I'm still hearing myself. Hello? Hello? All right, I'm gonna just keep talking. If there's an echo, let me know. So this is a situation where it's about more than just JV. I'm trying. I'm trying. It's about more than just the CBA though. This is a situation where entire relationships might be broken, and not just with Kathy Engelbert and the players. Like there were fans in that arena that were booing Kathy Engelbert, and here's why that's significant, right? Because let's say the WNBA, the players say, all right, we cannot come to an agreement on the CBA. We're not going to continue, right? Which would be the smart thing for them to do if they don't have an agreement in place. Um, and there's a lockout. If that were to happen in the NFL, for example, in the NFL, there's enough of a fan base to where you might have people still say, okay, okay, yeah, there is an echo. I don't, hold on, let me see. I think there's two windows open. Is the echo gone? I stopped talking. Hold on, let me mute. Happens. Hello? Oh, give me a few minutes to try to work this out. Because I'm trying to talk and do it at the same time, and it's not really working. Hello? No, I think the echo is still there. Okay, so y'all are saying y'all don't hear an echo? Okay, cool. I'll just keep going. Anyway, um, so where was I? I was talking about the CBA negotiations. Oh yeah. So with the NFL, they have a big enough fan base to where one of the things I've always said, like if the players were to threaten a lockout, what would probably actually happen is the NFL would just go find other people who are willing to play professional football and probably under worse conditions and for less money. Um, and those people would just take the place of it, and there would still be plenty of people who would still wanna watch that product, even if the best players were no longer, uh, participating in the NFL. Like, they would still have an audience, they probably still have their media rights deals. The brand is that strong, and the brands of the teams are that strong. But with the WNBA, however, the fan base is one that really supports the players, right? So if these players say, "Hey, we don't like how the WNBA is treating us. We don't like the fact that they're not being considerate of our needs and not wanting to properly share the revenue," then if they were to walk out, the fans would also walk out, and they would watch these players on their TikToks, and they would buy their shoes and their apparel lines and whatever else they decide to do to make sure those players are good. But in terms of supporting the WNBA, no. The WNBA would become the enemy. There's already people in my comments talking about, I hope one day the WNBA can get out from under the NBA so they can have leadership that actually cares about them and be driven own um, by their own interests and things of that nature. And while we're on that topic, there's just a couple of things that I want to mention when it comes to this topic and my reporting on it personally. Because I've had people come to my TikTok and just say things like, as if I don't actually read about this shit. Like, I'm just pulling shit out my ass. Like, when I was talking about Kathy Engelbert and her devaluing players, people came on my page talking about Angel Reese, and I hadn't even brought up Angel Reese. What I brought up was the fact that Kathy Engelbert was slow to respond to hateful messages and hateful statements made that they were being treated well. You know what I'm saying? And people start bringing up Angel Reese. I'm like, first of all, y'all are way too obsessed with Angel Reese. I didn't even bring her up. Secondly, um, I didn't say anything about racist remarks. Well, I did mention racism, but I also mentioned hatred. Like one guy, I literally had to tell him, I was like, yo, you sound really pro hatred right now. Are you okay? Because that's just kind of weird. That's kind of weird behavior that I'm talking about players talking about how they're treated, and for some reason you are determined to prove that it never happened. Like, why do you have a problem with these players standing up for themselves? Like, that's super weird behavior, right? And that goes for everybody. It's like if somebody is talking about the WNBA players and saying, "Hey, we deserve our fair share. We deserve rules put in place to where we're not mistreated in the arena. We deserve to not be harassed on social media," and you have a problem with that, that is weird ass behavior. That is weird ass behavior, and you need to get some help. And yes, sometimes it's racist and sometimes it's misogynist. And I'm talking to the women too, because some of these women have internalized misogyny that they really need to address. And they be taking it out on WNBA players too. But sometimes it's just hateful. It's just weird. And it's like you can tell too, because like, and I know I'm going off on a tangent. We're gonna get back to the WNBA in a second. But you can tell too, because it's really interesting to me what people decide to talk about. Because I have people on TikTok talking about why the WNBA players don't deserve to be paid, despite all the growth of the league, why they don't deserve to be paid. And it's clearly some misogynist shit, right? Because, first of all, what they're saying is not true, which tells me for some reason you're talking about women's sports that you don't actually watch or pay attention to, but you just took this opportunity to talk about what women don't deserve, okay? So that's a problem in and of itself. But then it's like, if you really care that much about failing sports organizations, talk about the UFL. But we don't see anybody talking about the UFL. Talk about the fact that the XFL was a thing 3 seasons ago and now it's not. Talk about the fact that the XFL and the USFL were both failing so badly that they had to merge and get rid of teams just in order to keep going. And they've had layoffs since then. And they're moving into smaller venues. Like, if you want to talk about like numbers going down, because the WNBA is on an upward trajectory. The UFL, their viewership is going down, not only on TV, but also inside their arenas. And their players don't get paid shit. So I'm just like, it's just really interesting to me that when it comes to ragging on a sports league that's not doing well, nobody talks about the men's football league that is like a sneeze away from going bankrupt. Y'all want to talk about the women whose views are actually going up and who's actually making money. Okay. Okay, I got you. It tells me everything I need to know. Anyway, but getting back to the WNBA and the CBA, what it sounds like is I think Kathy Gilbert and Adam Silver are going to push for an extension, which is an option, but I'm not confident that the players are actually going to go for it. None of the players have actually insinuated that they are going to go for an extension, and I think in order to get there, the WNBA would have to do something as a sign of good faith. They're going to have to put an offer on the table that at least shows that they're moving in the right direction. Because here's essentially what happened. ESPN got some quotes from some of the players. I don't know if there have been any talks that have actually happened, which I hope they are, since this current CBA expires at the end of the month. But here's some things that might illuminate for all of us what's going on. So this is a quote from Satu Sabali. Says, if we continued with the CBA, we would percentage-wise go down on our compensation. And so you might ask how that is. And Enrique Agumbawale kind of helps us understand this a little bit more. And she said, it's basically the same system that we exist in right now. She's saying this about the WNBA's proposal, that is what they already have. They're proposing a system that includes revenue that would grow with the business. When you approach it from the perspective of their response to our proposal, yes, money is more, but ultimately, if you look at the growth of the business, the money relative to the percentage of everything is virtually staying the same. So here's basically what's happening with all of that. Right now, the salary cap for the WNBA and what players make is a set number. And based on the CBA as it's written, it can only increase by 3% every year. And so the WNBA came along and offered the players something bigger than that 3% increase. I think somewhere I read that it was about triple. However, um, a, a lot of the figures for the WNBA have quintupled. And so the players are like, even if you triple what we're getting now, that's still not proportional percentage-wise to how much the business has grown. And so right now, I think it's incumbent upon the NBA to either the WBA, I mean, to either make that make sense or go ahead and put something on the table that's a little bit closer to what the players are asking for. So if it's a situation where they don't have enough control over their operating revenue and giving the players 50%, which is I think what they're asking for, would be too much, they need to go ahead and come out and be honest and say what's going on with their revenue so that they can get on the same page with these players. But if it's just that they're being greedy, they need to cut that shit out. That shit is unacceptable. Like, you can't have a business that's going 500%, 600% season over season, but then you tell your players, nah, we're only going to let you experience growth at half the rate of the growth of the business that is basically depending on you. You know what I mean? So that's essentially where we are with the WNBA CBA right now. And according to Adam Silver, some talks were going to take place after the WNBA finals. There's no word on if those talks are happening. Clearly, the players are talking to the media, but it's just not clear whether or not the WNBA Players Association has been talking with the WNBA leadership. And so that's really what's going to determine what the next step is. It's October 14th. They have until October 31st to figure this out. And so hopefully more information would come out because it's like, I really hate to think that the WNBA is just out here being like, yeah, we could pay players proportional to, how the business is growing, but we just don't want to. And we don't have to. And we're not going to. That would be extremely fucked up. That would be extremely fucked up. So clearly some more information is gonna have to come out about this, even if just to make it make sense to the fans. Because right now the fans cannot stand Kathy Engelbert. So if they don't plan on replacing her, they're gonna have to do something to at least get her back in the good graces of the fans. All right, let me look at some of y'all's comments real quick. Um, Writer says, good point. What little I know of WNBA, their fan base is smaller, so a lockout could deplete their fan core. Oh, absolutely. Easily. Like, if these players walk out and then go on TikTok and be like, hey, the WNBA tried to do us dirty, so yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's over for the WNBA. They better figure something out. Um, And Albert also said it is de rigueur for so many so-called fans to oppose professional athletes from making more money during negotiation and strikes. Agreed. With the WNBA, there is also sexism at work when it comes to salaries. 100%. I say it all the time. It's sexism and queerphobia. It's two things that the male sports didn't have to deal with as much when it comes to their growing pains and their development. Um, T. Jack mentioned the replacements. That is a good point of reference if you want to think about what could happen with an NFL lockout. But now in the CBA, the way the CBA is written, and a lockout could not happen. It literally couldn't happen. They would have to find another way, probably through some type of arbitration, but it could not happen. WNBA, on the other hand, they don't have that stipulation. So if this doesn't get done, they and the thing is, like, time is of the essence for the WNBA because they're talking about expansion teams. Their draft lottery is supposed to happen soon, all of that stuff. So we're talking about as soon as November. There's certain like milestone moments that are supposed to happen in preparation for the next season, partially because of how the timeline is adjusted with these expansion teams coming into play. So it's like they don't have all day. Even if they do want to get an extension, if they still want things to flow somewhat smoothly, they really do need to take care of this ASAP. They need to take care of this ASAP. Do y'all have any other questions about the WNBA? I feel like there's something else I was going to talk about. Oh, I think the last thing I was going to talk about was another segment of As It Is in Life, So It Is in Sports. And just to give Asia Wilson her flowers and give the Aces their flowers a little bit, because I feel like some of the lessons that we can learn from how they went about this championship can definitely be applied to people who are not athletes in our lives and anybody who's trying to accomplish a big goal or a big dream right now. So, one of the most important things that I thought was important is the idea that yesterday's price is not today's price. Now, we usually hear this phrase in reference to how much we charge for a service, for example. However, in terms of the ACEs, that phrase actually applies to what they put in order to get to the championship because they've won championships before, right? People are calling the Aces a dynasty. You know what I'm saying? So this wasn't their first time getting to this place or winning, but they had to do something completely different in order to get there. And that was in terms of growth from people who had already accomplished a lot, which brings me to my second point. Not only did they have to adjust how they were going about this goal, even though they had done it before, it required a level of humility from people in leadership positions. Asia Wilson talked multiple times about the fact that there were certain things that she didn't want to do as a leader in terms of communicating with the team, being the person to get them together and have them build chemistry, watch film together, do team building activities together. And she actually had to step outside of her comfort zone and do that this season. Like, I don't know if a lot of people remember, but like pretty late in the season, the Aces were just below 500. They had to go on a pretty impressive win streak at the end of the season to even make it into the playoffs. And even in round one, that series came down to the wire. So it took a lot of growth, a lot of humility, and a lot of looking in the mirror and saying, okay, even though I've done this before, even though I've been MVP before, even though I've broken scoring records before, none of that was enough. Not this season. I can't just rest on that and expect the championship to come to me. I have to be better. I have to do something different, you know? And so I felt like that was something that would be good for all of us to think about because sometimes we get to a place where it's just like we feel like we deserve certain things, and when they don't happen, we get kind of upset. We get disappointed. And I think sometimes it's worth it just to look in the mirror and be like, first of all, is yesterday's price today's price? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe I need to consider that in my future approach. And also, is there some way that I need to grow? Even if I've been doing this for a year, 10 years, 20 years. Is growth necessary, and am I willing to do it in order to accomplish my goal? So I think time's about to run out. So thanks for joining me for another episode of Bitches Love Sports. I'll see y'all later this week. Keep those notifications on. I'm your host, Jazz Monet, and I'm out.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who